The Good Ride, making mediocre matter one good setup at a time. So this, my friends, is a review of the Capita Navigator 155 from the Good Ride. I rode this with a bunch of different boots and bindings. Right now I have my trusty old Atlas with the older team high back, former Atlas ankle straps. Today I was riding it with the implant. A few days ago, I think I rode it with either my Adidas Tactical ADVs, I know I rode it with those, or another Vans boot. I think the Infuse, but I'm not sure, can't remember offhand. But a few Vans boots and my Adidas. And yeah, I could have used a 158, and we did another review earlier where we got it in a little, you know, spring slushy, kind of soft snow. And this is the last day I had the board. I'm shipping it back tomorrow, but somehow the lovely weather at Mount Bachelor cooperated with my need to ride this in powder, and it was very lucky. But we got about almost a foot today in some areas with some wind loading, and you know, it was really fun, as you can see from the preview videos you saw just beforehand. And I had a really good time. Yeah, I took it out and compared it against, you know, my Yes Pick Your Line with the Union Strata, because I just can't get enough of the Strata bindings. So I keep putting them on everything I can. And you know, this Navigator 155, it's a really unfair comparison against the Yes Pick Your Line 159. But they have somewhat similar specs. They got a little bit of taper. They have a similar setback on board. I rode this kind of like off the reference stance and then set all the way back, and compared it set all the way back to the Yes Pick Your Line. And this is just 449 bucks. This is like what, like $5.99, something like that. But that being said, this was really fun. This didn't even have a wax. I just was riding on the factory wax, and I noticed it was a little slow in some places. But with a little bit of wax on this thing, it would glide just fine. And I owned a Charlie Slasher 164 years ago, and I felt that was too much board for me. The 158 or even 161 would be a better call. And for this price point, you get a really great powder board. Yeah, it didn't quite have the float of my Pick Your Line, even though the Pick Your Line had camber. This is flat, basically from the tail to about the front binding, and then some rocker you can see on the table review below. And it's not as dynamic of a turner, but it's mainly for powder, you know. But you can go out on spring days and have a kind of a slashy fun time. And both of these can get a little surfy. It can get a little surfy and slashy off the tail, but it's not as much as you would think. And I had no problem riding it switch. And in the other video, Grant was saying, yeah, it's a really fun board. It feels like it's got some good hold to it. And I'll probably splice in Grant's take from our sunny day with less snow. But this is, you know, it's got great float. Very little taxation on the back foot. On the back leg, I felt it floats pretty well, especially if I was on a 58 or a 61, it would be amazing. But this 55 did really good. It was super fun to turn. It was super easy in the trees in powder. And I felt like even on groomers, the turning experience was really fun. I'd say just the carving is kind of weak, but that's expected, you know, based on, you know, the camber profile and everything like that. Edge hold isn't ideal, but you know, it's pretty good. It's good enough for riding powder. And I love the redesign of the Slasher into the Navigator, and I feel it's, I mean, at this price point, you know, you could pick up, let's say if you're more of a like a technical you know, mountain freestyle rider, all mountain rider, you know, you could get an Outsiders and get this both at a very reasonable price, almost less than some powder boards are just list price, you know. So I think at $449 and like $399 or like $4 something for the Outsiders, you'd have a great time. Or if you're, you know, more like me and you want maybe something a little more mellow, a little more buttery, a little more forgiving, you know, the Outer Space Living, that would be a great combo. Going Outer Space Living with and getting this, or you know, this and the Mercury. The Mercury is a great all mountain do anything board, and then when it got deep, you bring out the Navigator. Those are some great 1-2 combinations. So there you have it. I mean, such a fun ride. Such you know, very poppy for flat, and very dynamic. The Flex has really evolved over the years. From when I had my Slasher, that felt kind of planky. It was very stiff and very aggressive, and you know, Capita just keeps evolving their core, their materials, and using stuff that really improves and makes the Flex more dynamic, more buttery, more playful, and more poppy, and still just as damp. So it's nice to reduce that Flex, but still have a board that can get aggressive when you need to, and it's very forgiving. It's a great board. It's fun for surfing off the tail, but it's also fun riding centered on the like, or closer to the reference stance, and just having fun. I had a blast on this. Obviously it's a powder day, you know, but and going back and forth between the Yes Pick Your Line. Yeah, the Pick Your Line was a little more fun, but hell, at this price point, I wasn't like going, when I was turning down the hill, I wasn't going like, gosh, I missed the Pick Your Line. I didn't miss it at all. I was having a blast on this Navigator, and that's a great thing. And I'd say, like, you know, if you want to get a little more surfy and set back on the tail, yeah, you have the spring brake line, but those boards are so much more expensive, and it's such a different ride. This definitely has a little, you know, like all mountain aftertaste for riding powder, where you can still, it's set all the way back on mini disc style. I put the inserts close together and got all the way back, which is probably 5 and some change, and I had a blast doing it. So there you have it. I can't stop talking about the Navigator. Super fun, even at a size 55.